Hello YouTubers. Hello world. Thank you to Emma L and to Retro on his bikes for the inspiration. There was an article printed in The Guardian about a week or so ago that had some very, very important information in it. So if you'll indulge me, I'm going to read the article so that it's put on video and it's kind of a marker in the sand, if you wish, so that if at any point in the future we can reference back to it. As I say, this is a piece in The Guardian, and its title is Judge in Error Over Sentence for Jeremy Vine Stalker, says Solicitor General. Alex Belfield could have been given a longer prison term, but a legal technicality makes it too late to change. The judge who sentenced Jeremy Vine Stalker to 5.5 years in prison made a mistake and could have given Alex Belfield a higher sentence, one of the UK's government's most senior legal advisors has said. Yet a legal technicality means the Court of Appeal will not consider whether Belfield's sentence should be increased, The Guardian has learned. Belfield is appealing for a lower jail term, prompting calls for a reform in the law to give victims more time to appeal under the unduly lenient scheme, the ULS. Under the current law, anyone can appeal to the Attorney General, the government's main legal advisor, if they think someone has received too low a sentence. If the Attorney General agrees, they can refer the case to the Court of Appeal, and they must do so within 28 days. London's Commissioner for Victims, Claire Waxman, herself a victim of stalking, asked for Belfield's case to be reviewed within the 28-day deadline under the ULS, the unduly lenient scheme. Michael Tomlinson, the Solicitor General, who deputises for the Attorney General, wrote back to say he agreed that the sentencing judge at Nottingham Crown Court, Mr Justice Saini, fell into error. Tomlinson said the judge should have applied a more up-to-date law when sentencing Belfield for one of his crimes in particular, his 9-year stalking campaign against another local BBC presenter, Bernie Keith, who the judge said was seconds away from taking his own life as a result. The Policing and Crime Act 2017 carries a maximum penalty of 10 years imprisonment to any conduct that began before that date but occurred over a period lasting until the 3rd of April 2017 or after. Instead, after being misinformed by the prosecution, Mr Justice Saini relied on an older law that carried a maximum sentence of 5 years, on the basis that Belfield started stalking Keith pre-2017 and chose to give him 2 years and 6 months for what he did to Keith. Belfield ended up with 5.5 years when the judge applied a number of consecutive sentences to be served one after another. Tomlinson wrote back to Waxman to say, I agree with your analysis that the judge fell into error in concluding that the lower maximum sentence was applicable in relation to the offending against Bernard Keith, and therefore the sentence may be unduly lenient. But instead of activating the ULS, Tomlinson referred the matter back to the sentencing judge to address the error under the slip rule. The matter was listed before the sentencing judge on the 21st of October, and although he agreed that there had been an error in his approach to sentencing, he declined to interfere with the sentence, wrote Michael Tomlinson, Solicitor General. Michael Tomlinson added that it was too late to make the ULS referral because the statutory time limit for referral to the Court of Appeal has now passed. Although Waxman's original request was made within 20 days, regrettably, I am unable to refer this sentence as potentially unduly lenient. Now, here's the kicker. Here's the important bit that the supporters of Alex Belfield, and particularly Alex Belfield, needs to understand. Tomlinson added, I understand that the offender is seeking to appeal the sentence, and if he does so, my office will request that the Crown Prosecution Service, or CPS, draws the sentencing error to the court's attention. Explaining his decision, Justice Saini said he was misinformed by the prosecution about the maximum sentence available to him on the count of stalking Keith, and that it was regrettable that this was not drawn to my attention earlier. He added, Mr. John McGuinness, the King's Counsel, leading counsel for the Crown, has provided a frank and gracious apology to the court, which I accept. This was an oversight. The judge said he did not alter the sentence given to Belfield because it would have only been modestly higher, and the overall sentence fairly reflects the totality and seriousness of the offending. Waxman expressed her frustration at the rigidity of the 28-day ULS rule and called for it to be reformed. I have long been calling for the ULS scheme to be reformed to allow the fixed 28-day time limit to be extended in exceptional circumstances. A right that is provided to the offender but not to the victim, she said. This case is a perfect example of where such discretion is needed, where the CPS, Crown Prosecution Service, and Judiciary have clearly made and acknowledged a mistake in sentencing, but following due process has led to time running out to make an appeal. I will be continuing to call for the reform of the ULS under the upcoming Victims' Law to ensure victims are not failed during the sentencing process. The Court of Appeal said Belfield had applied for permission to appeal against his sentence, but that it would be several months before a judge would decide whether to grant it. I'm going to give you the important bit of that article again. Michael Tomlinson, Solicitor General, said, and I quote, I understand that the offender is seeking to appeal the sentence, and if he does so, my office will request that the CPS, the Crown Prosecution Service, draws the sentencing error to the court's attention. Now, Mr. Justice Saini gave him 2.5 years, thinking that the maximum was 5. So he was looking at half the term. The CPS could look to increase Alex Belfield's sentence to half the 10-year maximum, which would mean another 2.5 years, but would mean Alex would serve half of that. So it would be around 15 months. So not only would he get 2 years, 9 months, he'd get another 15 months on top. All of a sudden, we're looking at 4 years plus inside. And then another 2.5 or another 4 on top of that if he breaches his conditions, his release conditions. As I keep saying to you, this kid's in a whole world of pain. But he's going to try and go to appeal. If that single judge gives him permission, thinks he's got grounds, then the Solicitor General is going to instruct the CPS that they have a look at the sentencing error. And it could end up with Alex Belfield having his sentence increased to over 4 years. My name's Adrian Allen. Thank you for your likes, your subscriptions, but most of all your indulgence. Don't forget to ding the bell, and I'll see you in the next video.